Hello, hello, hello. What is happening, everybody? Today we got a great episode lined up. We are hanging out with a good friend of mine and longtime colleague, Chris Horvath. If you've dined out anywhere across Long Island, chances are you've stepped into one of his creations. From Channel 80, Speaks, Sprats, James and Maine, Hanu, Craft, Pearl, the Bridgeview Yacht Club, and of course, J.J. Cooper's. Chris has done it all. He's owned restaurants, he's built restaurants, and yeah, he even eats out sometimes too. But here's what's going to make today's episode super special. We're going to start breaking it down from both sides of the fire, the owner-operator perspective and the builder-contractor side. So if you've ever dreamed of opening a restaurant or you're in the middle of a build-out right now, this episode's going to be packed full of hard-earned lessons that you're not going to want to miss. What is going on, Chris? Welcome to the show.
How are you, Matt?
Good.
Nice chat with you. This is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time today. I'm telling you. Nice and easy, no problems, smooth.
Well, good.
So, Chris, I want to start off with, you've been in the game now, 30 years, if not more?
43 plus.
Okay, so for everyone that doesn't know you, how would you describe what you do?
But I got to tell you, design and build from the beginning to the end. I like the whole process. When you meet someone, you see their energy, and then they say, hey, I'm thinking about doing something. And between my energy and their energy, we get right into it. Whether it's a burger joint or a high-end steakhouse, we just get right into it. And we design and build and I like taking it from their concept, from their head. So I want to see, hey, where'd you come up with this idea? What were you thinking? How do you see the place? How do you see it running? So we take it from the beginning to the end, design, build.
Now, did you start off owning first? Did you start building? Which way did it happen first?
I got to tell you, purely by accident. I'm probably the luckiest guy you'll ever meet. I'm building a deck. I'm a couple of months out of high school. And Phil Basile, the great Phil Basile, I don't know if you know who he is, but I had the pleasure of working for many years. He owned 6 of the biggest nightclubs in the world. I think so. And he saw me building a deck. And he says, hey, kid, I want to talk to your boss. Talk to your boss? I don't have a boss. I'm building a deck at my friend's house. He says, I want you to build this deck at Rumors. I build a deck for him. I'm a kid. I bring all my friends. We're doing this as a goof. He hands me a bunch of cash. He said, you did a great job, kid. Now take it up and do it again. And that's how it started. We became great friends. I was young, eager. I had no clue. This wasn't even a business to me. I was a kid 2 days out of high school, and I started making money day one with the greatest nightclub owner as far as in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
And that's how it started. And then the next thing you know, I'm getting calls from his friends and their friends. This kid's pretty good. And 40 some odd years later, I'm still doing it.
So it started with a deck.
A deck. It did.
Wow. So, I guess I got to bring this up. Obviously, for all of you out there, Chris built J.J. Cooper's for me and my partners over there. And I walked in day one and I knew Chris, but I didn't know he was doing the build out on this project. And when I walked in the door, they started telling me that we were going to be opening this restaurant in 4 weeks. And I was like, no way. You guys got to be kidding me. And so I walked in the door and it blew my mind because walking into that job site, you're telling me the timeline and I looked and thought there's no way. But you did it. And so what do you remember most about that project?
Actually, so you're a perfect example, actually. I remember that day when you came in and you were a new investor. You were green. You were very nervous. I saw it. You owned Matty Smokes. You're an outside vendor. And now you're getting into the big boy game. You're getting into the restaurant game. And I saw the nervousness. You were probably laying out a ton of money. So I saw the nervousness in you, and and your partner at the time, or Rob, was, handling things, and you were just in the background making sure it was all cool. And I remember the whole process. Uh, Rob says we have a certain budget. We try and stay within it, and we start backwards. Chris, we have to open up November 3rd, the day before Thanksgiving, which usually is crazy deadlines. And I bring in 5 or 6 crews. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we pull it off. And then in that process, budget dictates everything. Hey, Chris, we started here. We got to slow down. Maybe we put some more money in the kitchen, or we take some money out of there. And it's forever evolving. It really is. You always start with the budget. Hey, we have X amount of dollars, and we really want, I always tell people the wow factor. Get them in the door, show them a beautiful storefront, show them a beautiful show. Unfortunately, the back of the house gets a little bit of a sting. And if there's any money left, we throw some money in the kitchen. But for the most part, it's all about the wow factor. And then I actually like the process of designing the logo, the ambiance of the place, and staffing too. I think there's a certain, vibe a place should have.
So when we look back at that build, what do you think helped you keep on track? Like, what kept it on track? What was the secret behind that? Because I mean, again, when I walked in, tile was ripped up, the front of the building was getting dormered out, ceilings were ripped open. I mean, everything. We were nowhere near it. And
yeah, no. So I will say this: a very smart and aggressive owner. That I said, listen, I'm going to have 100 questions for you, and you need to answer them within 10 minutes, and we got to order product. So before we start the project, I'll design it. I'll come up with a couple of different ideas. And then once we have an idea together, we'll all say, all right, this is great. This is the direction. I believe we can pull this off for this number. And it's forever evolving. So day one, we demo it. And of course, a bunch of things. Oh, this is broke. That's broke. All right, we got to redirect a few dollars here. So it's literally 1,000 questions before lunchtime, and you have to answer them before lunchtime, because by 2:00, I'm ordering material that's got to be there that night, if not the next day. So the key to really building fast, quick decision making, very, very important.
Yeah, not being afraid, just pull the trigger and go.
You have to.
Or else the supplies aren't there to make the move the next day.
Right. And then usually we have a great idea. Hey, let's use this, this faux brick or real brick. It's too expensive, or it's not in stock. So we got to pivot by 3:30 and say, all right, this material isn't ready, and maybe we'll repurpose this. So it's a lot of quick decision making, and it's balls to the wall, man. You got to make decisions, and you have to have money in the bank, bro. Got to make it happen. Money makes things happen fast.
So, all right, we'll shift gears a little bit. So a lot of people out there, they're listening, they want to open restaurants, or they're in the midst of opening restaurants. But, the big question is, I've always dreamed of opening a restaurant. Where do I start?
Well, see, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process right now. I have a guy, he's kind of in the business, and they're very nervous. And actually, the first thing that I do when I meet someone, I actually try and talk them out of it. And I actually say to them, this is really, you're talking about a lot of money. It's the opposite of a normal life. If you have a wife or kids or a girlfriend, you're never going to see her on weekends again. So I actually spend a good 45 minutes trying to talk them out of it. And if I can't talk them out of it, these people are real. All right, they have what it takes. They understand that it's going to be a year out of your life until you start landing on your feet, if you're lucky.
Okay.
So from the beginning, I try and talk them out of it. And once I think they're real, then I say, all right, let's get into the nitty gritty, the legalities of it. And then I scare them with the reality of opening a restaurant. I say, all right, here's a great spot. Let's say it's in Long Beach. It's the rent is good. All the numbers are lining up. And then I scare them with, or I tell them the daunting part of the legalities, the drawings, the concepts, the staffing, picking out everything. And time is money. Most people that aren't in the game, they'll spend, 6, 7 months just talking about it. Whereas seasoned players, they know the restaurant business is somewhat seasonal. Right after Super Bowl, everything dies down. So they'll get into, all right, Chris, we got to renovate it the day after Super Bowl. And you have 5 weeks because the spring starts kicking
Yeah.
in. And then there's the water bars that kick in the winter. They do all the renovations in the winter. Uh, so I'm sorry, we're going all over
Oh,
the
it's
place.
all
I want to
good.
say
It's all good. But listen, the main idea is it's a lot. It's a lot to plan.
it's a lot.
I mean, so for these people that finally, yeah, we're dreaming, we're doing it. You approve them. You think it's a great idea, but like someone like you, as a professional that's helping, I guess we call it consulting through the process. Should I be getting you involved when I'm designing a concept? Should I have the concept ready to go? Should I have a lease and a location and then bring Chris in? Or should we be planning before we even start looking for the location?
So I always tell people I'd love to be in on the ground floor. If you have an idea, Matt, let's use you for example. You want to open up a high-end steakhouse. And then you say, Chris, I have this idea. As a matter of fact, James in Maine was part of that process. He had a great idea, and we talked about it for a while because he's been in the game with other restaurants. So I have built several restaurants for him. But how do I say this? Once you once you have an idea, I say to them, and it's hard. Like I'm the first. A lot of times when you build a restaurant, you first think you need a design, you need an architect. I'm actually all in one, and I actually will go scouting with you. I'll help you negotiate the lease. I'll help you design the place. I'll help you do the logo, the menu. I like being in on the ground floor from the minute it's in your head, and I like to extract it and then bring it to reality. And then a lot of the times, if I don't know you and you're not sure, I had a client call me and say, "Hey, Chris, I hear you're the guy to build my restaurant in 2 months. I have a place in Merrick, and if they're just kicking the tires, they have no lease signed." I say, "All right, there's a consultation fee of say $400. I'll meet you at the site, and I'll tell you if you have the infrastructure in place and how much money it's going to take you just to get you." For the infrastructure, the bathrooms, the hoods, the this. I always tell people if you can get an existing restaurant, that's usually the easiest path. But if you have a vanilla box with nothing in it, there's a lot of infrastructure that has to go in. So I always tell them in the beginning, before you sign a lease, you might have $200,000 of infrastructure that's not in the building.
Yeah.
So I tell them, try and get a restaurant that has some decent bones in it. And it'll save you a ton of money. So I like being on the ground floor because I help with forget about the design part. I think it's the legalities that's really daunting. We know a lot of people in the industry, in the building departments. We know how to work with the building departments, the governing agencies, the Board of Health, the DEC, you name it. The amount of governing agencies that you have to talk to prior to opening, it can be very discouraging.
So we're looking to build this place out. We got it. We have a concept. We're now trying to bring someone like yourself on board. I feel like we've got to interview you. We got to make it's a big decision to decide on who now we're working with because I'm trusting you with my dream, with my money.
Yeah.
Almost like hiring a head chef. I'm kind of getting married to you.
100%. And by the way, we have to understand each other. And I have a theory is whoever, it's your restaurant, you're the boss. I work directly for you. And once I'm on board, we'll have a couple of meetings. I think this guy's real. I like his vision. I like his concept. I don't like building failures. I have very few failures because I think I'm a good judge of character. So a guy like you will come with me, interview me, and you'll ask, "Hey, Chris, why am I using you?" I'll show you all my little tricks and all the recipes that I have on how to build the place. And if we click and everything's working and we're able to pull this off, and I always say, if you have the money in the bank, we can build. I build as fast as the money comes in, which I hate saying it. That is the key to this whole business.
So speaking of money, I mean, obviously Now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more,
Yeah.
before we even make a dollar. Like
Yeah.
there's not
Yeah.
even a cash register in yet.
Yeah.
So how do you keep people grounded through the process and balance our dreams to the reality of what it is? Because
Well,
I'm sure these guys have dreams. They come in
yeah.
and we're talking about if I'm building a restaurant, I want the most amazing standout
Right.
location that money could buy, but you kind of got to bring me to reality a little bit sometimes on that.
And so, great question, by the way. So, everyone has great ideas, by the way. You have great ideas, everyone does. And then I say, all right, let's go to some of the restaurants that you want to try and emulate. What's your favorite restaurant that you think is closing? So, we'll go little research and development. We'll go to this place, that place. Hey, what do you like about this place? What the staff, the ambiance, the food, everything about it. And then as we're doing this, hey, we're having fun. I love what I do. I haven't worked a day in my life. So while we're having drinks and it's nice, great, it's Friday night, the energy's there, and we're talking, and I'll point out a chandelier. So you like that chandelier, right? That's a $7,000 chandelier. I guess we're going with the Home Depot chandelier. So those are the realities, and I point that out. I said, we all have great taste. I said, if you have deep pockets, then we can build the most unbelievable place, and we can do the $10,000 chandeliers. Unfortunately, most mom and pop stores are under $1 million. Hopefully, you can get into an old restaurant that went defunct, and you can, tune it up a little bit. Those are the easy ones: 3, 4, $500,000, depending on the size. But I actually point out, then they'll point out it's beautiful mahogany floor with the tile insets, and I'm like, that's $35 a foot. I love it. I says, now maybe if you like it so much, we do that, but we got to take it from somewhere else because your budget, for argument's sake, was $400,000.
Yeah.
So while we're doing research and development, I'll take it down to reality and say, and I'll show you. I'll show you a great fixture for $400 at Home Depot. No one will know it's from. And by the way, when you need a light fixture, you need 50 of them. So 50 of them at $100 each, it adds up fast. I always tell people, listen, in the entrance, we do a little splash. We spend a little money in there. The outside, you really got to rope them in. Nice frontage, neat, clean, great signage. Rope them in. Then you got to, get them with the ambiance. And then the last killer is the food. So if you get them in from the door, people eat with their eyes and then they eat with their tongues and their mouth. So you got to start from the street and work your way in. Keeping people in reality, just point out, like we'll go to a really fancy steakhouse and they're going to say, I said, I love it. It's a $15 million restaurant. You're only spending $600,000. I'll show them closer to reality. James in Maine was a very great experience. We pulled off a beautiful restaurant. We didn't spend $8 million, but we pulled off a really nice high end look within a budget.
Yeah, every time I go in there, it's a beautiful spot. You got a nice job over there. Yeah. So now we're talking about all these costs. What do you see over and over again? What are the hidden expenses that hit people over the head every time that, maybe you with experience at this point could see it coming sometimes, but on the other hand, we're building out and we just get slammed over the head with something that you didn't see coming.
Yeah, 100%. A great question, by the way. I actually, so let's say I'm going to use you as an example. You're going to call me. I have a 20-page checklist. And it actually started probably in the late 80s. We were building nightclubs. So the checklist starts from the lawyer, the legalities, and it literally, there's a legal page, a construction page, it's endless. And I'll sit down with the owner and I said, listen, we're going to do a little Q&A. And I said, we can only spend 2 minutes per question and you got to spit it out, even if you don't know the answer. So we go through these 20 pages and at the end of it, I say, listen, I said, and then I plug in numbers, air conditioning, 20,000, the flooring, and then I do 3 columns. Out of thin air, what do you want to spend on air conditioning? Chris, I don't want to spend any money. All right, we're going to clean it up. We're going to spend 5,000 on that. I plug in the number. So there's the plucking the number out of thin air. I put that column. Then as we get into more meetings, I have a second column when we start meeting the trades and we start putting real numbers in. That's the second column. And then once we're knee deep in it, and then the budgets are, hey, Chris, we're spending, where do we go? And there is a formula, and it's actually pretty solid. This 20-page questionnaire, which you can have, by the way, a lot of my clients love it. They constantly ask for it, and because it really brings up things that you just don't know. So the magic number when you're building a restaurant, and I've come up with it, and I say, guys, after 100+ restaurant, you say, Chris, I can't spend more than $400,000, whatever the number is. I say, well, I got to be honest with you. Towards the end, you get really excited, and you're like, I got to have that chandelier. I got to have that door. And then the budget starts going here. So I always say, because of your dreams and maybe your ego, you're going to spend a little more than you should. That magic number is 25 to 35%. So when we do that first dream number, first meeting, that meeting probably lasts about 2 hours, and you're all over the place. It's really exciting. And you come up with 487,000. They get scared, and I say, wait, you got to add 20% to that. Well, why? I got to be honest. I go, it's not me, it's you, because you want that door. You want that. I got to have the big sign on the front. I go, well, we can't afford it. And only you make that decision. So the magic number to your dream is 20 to 30%. It really is.
More.
Yeah, more. And I will say this. I'm very good at keeping my clients on budget, on target. And I say, listen, we don't need to spend that money. I said, your kitchen's a mess. We got to put a new floor in. People should work like humans back there. We got to throw $10,000 in the kitchen, which you guys never get.
I just expense it. I just throw it in and hope nobody notices.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a contingency. I'm not but the last thing is it's usually 5% contingent on that. And then I add, all these things. Hey, by the way, I forgot this. I forgot that.
Yeah.
Or, we didn't do the compressors are broke. We got to put in there. So that magic number is 20 to 30% on top of your dream.
Yeah. So it's not a specific thing. It's just in general.
100%.
Calculate another 25% on there, no matter what, because it's going to happen.
And mostly, I'll say this, it's mostly the owner's ego and what he wants.
Yeah.
And then he's willing, hey, listen, you know what? I'm just not going to take a salary. And then there's a bunch of tricks to this trade that I know and that I help this newcomer. There's a lot of ways to get money from the street, from the vendors, from this guy, from that guy. And you can leave money on the street. I said, listen, you know what? Everyone's believing in you. Some people will hold some money. The plumber will hold 20,000. I'll hold some money, but you really got to produce. You got to be a winner.
Yeah. They got to believe in you for that.
100%.
So obviously they're building now. They want the chandelier. They want the door. They're spending the money on all this stuff. What are the things that everybody tries to cut the corners on that you're like, absolutely not? We can't. You want to nickel and dime that, but you're out of your mind. You have to just spend the money and do it. So
yeah,
what's everybody trying to cut corners on?
Oh, no, I'll say this. You're a chef. Unfortunately, I got very, very few owners put money into the kitchen. And unfortunately, you really have to. Everyone likes the wow factor, the entrance, the sign, the logo, the bar, the flooring, the bathroom's got to be beautiful. And yet the floor's rotting out under the cook line. So I said, listen, I'm sorry, but we're on target. We're opening in 2 weeks. Our budget's looking good. The tile guy's here. And then we tell the tile guys, you got to go in there and fix the kitchen. So I'm always forcing the issue of the kitchen so that you people can at least work like humans back there. It's already 120 degrees. At least you should stand on solid ground.
Yeah, I could see that because these guys aren't the chefs themselves. So they're just.
No, they want and there is some you want to get them in the door. You want to rope them in. Hey, this is wow, what a beautiful place, great location. You know, the bar, the lighting, the music, the staff, the menu looks great. Ambiance is everything. And then you hit them with good food. And then, I always say this, when you start bouncing back, and usually the first 2 or 3 months, if you're really crushing it, you'll start seeing really big money coming in, hopefully. And then I say, call me back and throw it in the kitchen. We'll do it on a Sunday night, in a 24-hour turnaround time to make that kitchen really flow. Unfortunately, the kitchen takes the biggest hit.
So we talk about the timeline. How do you set your timelines? How do you figure out how long something's going to take?
After 43 years, we'll use a 3,500 square foot restaurant. And this is why I like to be in on the ground floor. If the place has good bones, it has good plumbing, good electric, you're going to save yourself a ton of money and a ton of time. So whereas if you sign a lease and it has none of that, and then all of a sudden I got to build this place in 3 weeks with no infrastructure, I'm like, that's going to be tough. So the timeline is really, and that's why I said, please get me in the beginning, because I'm going to tell you that $400 consultation fee. I'm going to tell you where this is a great location. It has great bones. You don't need to spend the money on the hood, the exhaust, the plumbing. All we got to do is bells, whistles, change some equipment around, beautiful signage, beautiful frontage, great bar scene, and you're not doing a lot of the backbone. So that helps me dictate how long a project takes. And most people, they don't like reality. Like James in Maine, we actually built a new building on the side. And we pulled that place off in 4 months, if not, probably less than 4 months, in the middle of the winter. And we opened them up in the early spring, late spring, just in time.
Yeah.
I like places opening up in March. You get your feet wet a little bit, and the next thing you know, spring kicks in, and then you're home free from there.
So realistically, how often would you say you stay on target for these timelines?
I'm gonna brag a little bit. I'm gonna say 80-90%, bro. I gotta tell you, I have a short attention span, and if after 6 months you kind of lose me, I don't want to build. Nothing takes 6 months. We build huge catering halls, and the catering company at $2-3 million. I said, guys, we're gonna build this in 2 months, 3 months, tops, and we dare each other. I said, listen, if you have $2 million in the bank and that's the budget, I want to work day and night, 7 days a week. I want to build it in the 3-4 months tops. After 5-6 months, I just don't think I can build anything in less than 6 months. And 99% of the time, I build everything in less than 4 months.
I mean, so 80% we're on, 20% we're off. Obviously, it's not always smooth sailing. But what separates a successful project from one that turns into kind of call it a disaster?
I'll say this, towards the end, they'll run out of money, they'll run out of steam, and then they get a little frustrated because then they can't hire the right chef. They're not adhering to their original goals. And then in the beginning, I'm always there. I want to motivate them, because actually their success is actually part of my success. So I tell them, I don't want to bring up the last restaurant. I didn't like what they were doing. I'm like, dude, the lighting's gotta, at this time when it's dinner hour, you got to bring the ambiance on, bring the lighting, the music. It's all got to gel. So you got to, towards the end, budget and adhering to your original goals. And you got to stick with it. Sometimes you got to bite the bullet.
I mean, what is one of the biggest mistakes you see owners do during build-outs?
Geez, what's the biggest mistake? Tough question.
You don't have to name them, but does there happen to be a story that stands out, a mistake that
yeah,
made?
So it's a little recent, and I love the guy. It's the hardest thing. It's, by the way, if I said, listen, you got to make a $20,000 decision now. You're like, wait, can't I research? Don't I got a week? I go, you want a week? Take a week. I said, but what do I do with all the guys now when the floor's open? So very recently, the guy just couldn't make the decision fast enough. And that's actually what made it drag out to 4.5 months. And it was daunting. They were 20, 30, $50,000 decisions. And so, we need out of nowhere, we need a grease trap. They're not accepting this grease trap. Instead of a $5,000 budget that we had for a 200-pound grease trap, now the town wants us to put a 1,200-pound in the parking lot, and we got to dig this up. It's $40,000, and it's a big sting. And sometimes you got to say, all right, listen, then I'll try and help manipulate and say, hey, listen, we'll work with the Board of Health. We'll work with the town. Can we do it later? Can we do this? And it's just one dart after another. You just got to keep throwing at it until we resolve it. And then at some point, you're kind of stuck with the big ticket item. We're stuck doing it. They're just not making decisions fast enough. That's the biggest hurdle, always, always.
You hit a point about when people were starting and a location having good bones. What like before as we sign a lease, what are we looking at? What are we looking for in a location that makes it for an ideal space before you get started?
Electric, plumbing. So I'll in the first 10 minutes, I'll use to me, the best store is 3,500 square feet. It's a one-man store. And a guy like you says, Chris, I want to venture on my own. And I would say to you, Matt, do a 3,500 square foot store. You can handle it. It's probably 80, 90 people plus or minus. The bones in the place, I'm going to say to you, you want at least 400 amps, good power. If the store, most of these small stores only have 150 amps. So that number can climb. So if you don't have 400 amps, I'm going to say, listen, that's a big ticket item. You need at least 2 handicap bathrooms. So you only have one. It's in the front. I got to move it in the back, and the place is all beat up. There's no crawl space. So I always say good power, good plumbing, a solid roof, hopefully no leaks. Hopefully you have a good solid air conditioning unit. 3,500 square foot store, I'd like to have at least, maybe 15, 20 tons of air. If you have that in your 3,500 square foot store, you got a good head start. And if there's a kitchen with a hood, that's huge.
So a lot of these guys out there, they talk about trying, I'm gonna DIY it. I got an uncle who's gonna build me a bar. I got a neighbor who's electric. I got grandma's recipes. Everybody can own a restaurant. Anybody can do.
Yeah.
So
it's the glamour business.
What do you got to say to these kind of people? If someone came to you and was talking about, I'm just going to build it, like, what are you saying to these people?
So by the way, that's a great question. I've actually done it. So they would say, hey, Chris, you got the magic touch. Thank you very much. We want to hire you to design it and consult and just spoon feed us. So I would give them a fee. And I've actually built, I don't know if I'm going to use Cafe Wandy for black guy, great guy. So I built a couple of black bars for him, different culture, different animal. And I said, listen, I got to learn this culture and how it works. He would take me to all those bars and we'd have a great time. Now I'm learning how these types of facilities work. So he's actually hired me to where I would meet his carpenters, his plumbers. And if you really want to do it yourself, I can spray paint the entire space, the bar. I actually have 4 colors. I do the plumbing, the electrical, I do the lighting, and I spray paint everything on the floor. And it's exciting because you see the whole restaurant on a beautiful broom swept floor. And I he'll bring in his friends and his plumber. And I said, listen, I need a toilet bowl here. I need a hood here. I need this, this, and this. And I come in once a week and hopefully they're following the paint by numbers. And actually Wandy has pulled it off not once, but twice, but 3 times.
Okay.
So I painted by numbers with him many times. And he's a mover and a shaker, Wandy.
All right. So at this point, I mean, obviously you've done so many projects. If you had to build your last restaurant and you wanted it to be like that's the last one you're going out on. It's the one you're going to be remembered for. What does it look like?
Oh, so
What is that?
I have to say, every restaurant I've ever built, they're my restaurants. I'm knee deep in them. I become very good friends with the owner. I will say this: I'm a big Peaky Blinders fan. Tommy Shelby, everything he says, everything he touches, everything. It's that era. So James and Maine is pretty close to my restaurant. So if I'm going to open up a restaurant, it's going to be a lot like James and Maine, a lot like it. I love that era. I like that ambiance. I like that upscale published food, not steakhouse. I don't think people can afford to go out 2, 3 times a week spending it, $150, $200. I think if you get that great price point, give them great ambiance, great food at a great price point, you're getting them 2, 3 times a week. If you look,
Can we explain a little bit what James and Maine looks like and what the vibe is and the menu?
yeah.
Because a lot of people out there aren't going to necessarily know, but the big pub style booths with the leather, the big
Yeah. Peaky Blinders. It's Peaky Blinders. That's it.
yeah.
It's that vintage throwback. We brought in an artist. I said, everything's got to look like it's 100 years old. So we put the brick on the walls. We put so when we put the artwork on the walls, we actually got this dusting gold, brownish gold. And I dusted all around all the paintings because they had to look like they were there forever. So when you walked in, I'm like, man, that's dusty. That little, that coziness, that dark, crusty, neat, clean, but a little bit of coziness to it. Just shy of a giant fireplace. It's that 1930s, 40s vibe. And every day we wore the Peaky Blinders hats. I said, listen, we got to play the part. James and Maine in East Rockaway, that's my restaurant.
Cool. So one way that I try to wrap things up, we're going to do a little bit of a quick fire session. And I got some questions here that we're going to...
Wasn't me.
We're going to keep quick, fast, and easy. So my first question I got here for you is looking for your funniest or craziest build-out moment that you've ever had, one that still makes you laugh when you think about it.
Oh, there's too many, but so just the other night I'm at Farm Italy, sitting at the bar with my friends, and in comes a bunch of old timers, and we notice each other. Now we got gray hair, and we just walked up to each other and hugged each other. Haven't seen each other in 20, 30 years. These were nightclub promoters. Funny, crazy story. Happens all the time 3 days before opening. So this is Gil and Ernie's 4 days before opening. Phil Basile, the greatest nightclub owner on the planet. Says a tow truck pulls up with a pink Cadillac on it. Says, kid, they call me kid. I don't know. He says, I need this car on that building before Thursday's open. I go, well, I got to cut it. What do you mean? He goes, I kind of want it sticking out over the door. I want the lights to work, the hood open. I said, wait a minute. I got to cut this thing in half. Lo and behold, I'm in the parking lot in Westbury on the tow truck. I said, listen, they're not going to let us take it off the tow truck. So I said, you got to pay the tow truck to keep it here. So P.S., I bring in my welder. And I said, well, how do you want it? I want to know. And everything we did was on napkins. Phil Basile, I'm going to tell you, I got blueprints on napkins. I want the car like this, kid. You better get it right. And lo and behold, 2 a.m. that night, I'm throwing a car battery in. And I got this car, a pink Cadillac, sticking out of the front doors with the lights flashing. I got 100 of those stories.
So next, what's your proudest build? What stands out the most to you? What's your crown jewel?
I gotta say my last projects usually I got a James and Maine Pearl. The Coopers I love, by the way. Sorry about that. James and Maine grand opening night. I'm in there. I'm like the owner. This place is great. Buying drinks to everybody. Every build I do, it's my place. I'm in there. I'm pumping the place up. I want the owner to be successful, and he's successful. He's going to call me back. I have 10 customers, and they always call me back. Always, always. It's a great relationship. and it's a give and take. Hey, Chris, we spent a little too much. We got to slow it down. We don't got that kind of budget. The last project I did, well, right now I'm doing Stony Brook. There's nothing to brag about, but they're big projects. They're not the glamour projects like Cooper's, James and Maine, Pearl. So I always say my last project's my best one.
Well, so then what was the toughest project and what made it so rough?
Tough. Oh, tough. The ones who have big dreams and very little budget, and they're just too demanding, and there aren't too many of them. Actually, so Meta and the chef, he was great, by the way. What the food was amazing, and he's been there for so long. And he said, Chris, I only have $100,000. How do I transform this place? And I'm like, listen, I'm not a miracle worker, but I will say this: $103,000 later, we transformed Meta, and the new vibe, the new energy, and his food was always good, but he just wanted a new, fresh look. That was probably one of the toughest ones with very little money. Very proud of it. The owner was a great guy. I think he recently passed away. So that was a great project, and it's still open to this day.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
When building a restaurant, what's the most underrated part of a project that makes a great build? What do people
Staff. You're in the people business. If I got to tell you, I can build you a shitty place, and I don't want to. There's a place in Long Beach that has great food. I don't like the place, but I got to tell you, the decor is horrendous. The staff is amazing, and the food is good. So you can go into a real shitty looking restaurant. If the staff is good and the food is good, they're going to keep coming back. So staff, and give them a good quality product. So I just talked myself out of a job.
Beer, bourbon, or espresso martini?
Oh, geez. Actually, none of those. If I had to, I would go an espresso martini after the fact. But I'm a pacer. I go to my favorite restaurant in the whole world is Ted's in Point Lookout. I ride my bike there 6 days a week. I get my summer armor. I sit at the bar, and I tell the same stories I'm telling you.
If you could build a restaurant anywhere in the world, no budget, where are you going?
Believe it or not, my favorite restaurant in the whole world, I've been around the world, I don't know if I'm saying the name right, Guanas Bananas in Jupiter, Florida. In the middle of nowhere, on this obscure canal, the vibe, the energy, the look, everything about it is beachy, fun, and cool. All the bars in Tulum blew me away. Yeah, all natural looking.
Your trip in Tulum looked like you enjoyed yourself. I followed that.
100%.
So in one sentence, what separates the people who make it in this business and the ones that don't?
Tenacity, balls. You got to do it, man. Jump in. It's going to hurt. You're going to fuck up a little bit. Yeah. Stick with it. Stay with the plan. I've owned 3 restaurants. I've actually printed money and the next day lost it all. I went balls to the wall, man. $500,000. I lost it in 8 weeks. I know the formula to winning and losing. And at a certain point, my own restaurant, I said, I ain't dumping any more money into this place. I'm done. And I sold it. So you got to count your losses. Try, jump in. I bought the best equipment, the best staff, the best of the best, and I still fail. So it's not an easy business.
All right. So guys, you've heard it. So many crucial pieces of insight from Chris. And that's the kind of stuff that as operators and dreamers and builders, you guys need to hear it. So if you're building a new spot, take your time, find the right professionals, trust the process. Don't rush it. You're going to be grateful you did. Chris, I can't thank you enough for being here today. This was a great experience. And whether it's a mini series in the future or, like we discussed prior or something, but I'm sure we're going to be back here again. And I thank you for everything today. This has been great for everyone.
Matt, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. And I always wish you good luck in whatever you're doing.
All right. That's all, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us for more information. And we got plenty more coming your way.